Hello and welcome back. So in this tutorial here, I'm just going to press play to see where we've gotten to. So we have our character and he walks forward and he gets hit by something and our health bar diminishes both numerically and graphically. So that's where we've gotten to. It's not that far, but so in this one here, in this tutorial, we're going to do a little bit about level design, and we're also going to do a little bit of work on triggers and platforms. So I'm going to start by importing some sprites. Now I'm not going to show you how to make these sprites. I'm just going to go get them from my desktop. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just going to import them. So these are basically pictures. They were made in Blender. So they're made quite elaborately in Blender as like a 3D objects, and then they were saved out as PNG files. They have, as you can see down here, they have an alpha channel in the background, and that will allow me to put in an animated background, which we'll do in the next tutorial. So I'm just going to drag and drop one of these in here and double click on it, and here we go. So it's at 0, 0, 0, and it's a sprite. So I don't need now my ground plane, so I'm going to delete that. And then I've got my non-player character, but it's not visible. So let's just have a look at this. So it's got order and layer, so I can move this backwards and forwards. So if I put in, say, a layer 5, and let's open this up, so it says number 2 here, its order and layer is now 5. And then if we look at our prefab and our bullet and its order and layer, we'll put in 5. The other thing that we can do is have sorting layers, so we can add layers so that we can have one layer on top of another to make things, you know, we can decide what's in front and what's behind. And let's just go to our character here, and its order and layer is, so if we move the character down a little bit, we can see we're going behind the scenery here. So we'll take that and we'll put this at 9. So it's not only in front of the corridor, but it'll also be in front of the non-player character. So if I go to my player here and I move it forward and move it over the non-player character, you can see that it'll go in front of that, or on top of that. Okay, so there's my first piece of scenery that I've added in. So that's number 1. So let's put in corridor number 2, and let's move that. So this is going to go over to here, and we're going to see if we can move this precisely. So I'm going to change its X value. So that's 19.0. So we'll put in 19. See what that looks like. That's a bit too far. So we'll put in 18.5 and see what that, oh, too far entirely. So 19.5 and 19 maybe 0.1. 0.2 looks good. Okay, so 19.2 on X. So now we're going to put in number 3. And that's going to go up here. So 19.2 and 19.2 should be 38.4. So that's looks at a glance, looks like it's pretty much in place. And then we'll put in corridor number 4. So again, we'll give this a 38.4, and then we'll move this down. And let's see how far we need to go down with it. Minus 12. Minus 12. Let's see what minus 12 does. Minus 12 looks right. looks correct. Okay, so then we'll put in number 5. So 5 should be -12 and 19.2, and then the last one, number 6, and that should be this -12. So so this was rendered out in 3D from Blender, screen by screen, in orthographic mode, so that I can simply assemble it here in Unity. So I've made my life easy on myself in the production end. I still need to select this slide here, number 1, this panel, and I need to add into it so I'm going to turn off number 2 here for a second, so I can see where number 1 ends. So on this number 1 here, I'm going to add in a renderer. So I have an edge renderer, so I can actually go through the layer. So I'm going to go Physics 2D, and I'm going to add in an edge collider. Sorry, I was saying renderer there, I meant collider. Oop, didn't mean to do that. So here's my edge collider. So I'm going to go Edit Collider, go to the very end of it, and I'm going to start it, say, here. And then if I click anywhere on this line, I'm going to add in a new vertex. So let's zoom in here and get this into the right place. So the more accurate we are now, the more enjoyable the game will be. Okay, so place that there, not there, oops. Oop, I didn't mean to do that. And whoops, or that. So let's go ahead and get this very last one and move it to here. Okay, and let's see if we can fix, nope. There we go, add this one in here. Okay, so, and I'm gonna turn off the Edit Collider. So I'm trying to create a scenario where we can walk along. Now, I can jump with this character. Now, I haven't turned off my double jump. We'll get to that. So I can jump through the corridor. Now, I could literally put a roof on this corridor with the Edge Collider and stop it from colliding out. But what would happen then is I would get, when I hit it, I might spin. So the sprite might spin. So we won't do that. Okay, so that's my first piece there. I'm going to go to the second one and turn on my sprite renderer. Now, what I want to do with this one, and this is kind of interesting, so I'm going to turn off the first one so I'm not confused by it. And the last one here. So I might need to turn them back on in a second. But so I'm going to add in a Physics 2D Edge Collider. And I've added it in on the wrong one, so let's remove that component. Sorry, so let's go back to number 2 here. And I'm going to add in an Edge Collider. And with this Edge Collider, what I want to do, I'm going to, whoops, undo that. I'm going to completely reposition this. So to the top, and even though it's an Edge Collider, I'm not using it so I'm basically going to use it to stop the character falling out of a lift shaft. So the character can walk through here, but not go on either side. So I've added this in as sort of a wall here. If I turn this one back on, and then go back to number 2 here, so we can see I have maybe brought it down a little bit too far, so I'll bring that up to here. But now what I can do, which is quite delightful, is I can add in another one. So I can go Physics 2D, Edge Collider, and then with the second one I can press Edit, and lift that up there. I'll move this down to here. So if I put in a lift into this lift shaft, that it will stop me falling off the side, but still let me enter and exit the kind of corridor sections that are kind of peeling off either side of this. So we'll add in, so close these two up here and add in another one. So Physics 2D, Edge Collider. And we'll edit that one. Again, we want that to start about there. But we don't want that one there, we want it about here. Now I'm not going to finish this because and do all the other panels because it'll be a bit laborious and tedious for you to watch. But you get the idea. So I just want to show you that you can have as many edge colliders as you want on a single panel. And by going through all the different panels, I'll be able to create, you know, where my character can and cannot navigate. So for now, the next thing that I want to do is I want to add in a platform. So the platform that I'm going to use, let's see if I can find it. I think it's this guy here. So I was dragging this in here. It's a sprite. Moving platform. There it is there. Okay. So I'm going to drag and drop this in here. And there she is. And I'm going to move this across to my elevator. And again, I have my order and layer issue, so I'm going to make this layer 2. And it's not quite wide enough, so I'm going to go to scale and just scale it down a little bit, scale it out wider, and then move it in. Now, I'm going to position that there, and then I'm going to add a box collider to this. So Physics 2D, box collider. Now, what I want to do with this is I want to add in so I want to put in a very simple system where the character can move on and off the platform and not worry about sticking to the platform. We've actually done this in class with parenting, but the thing that I'm most interested in this one, which we haven't done, is I want to trigger an animation here. So that's what I'm going to set up now. So I'm going to very quickly make an animation, which we have done before. So I'm going to go window, what do I want? I want animation. So I have my moving platform selected here. I want to create an animation for it. I'm going to put it in animations, and we'll call this lift move. Okay, and it's only going to have one animation. So lift move, and we want to give it its starting position. So we'll say its starting position is right down at the bottom. So here. And what we want to do here with lift move is we want to add a property, and the property is going to be a transform property, and it's going to be position. So I now have a keyframe on that. So I can zoom out here, And let's make, let's go to say 10 seconds. And at 10 seconds, we're going to move this all the way to the top. Not too far though, because we don't want to eject our character out. So I'm going to add in a keyframe here for its position. So it'll go back to the beginning. I don't need these keyframes here, have no value on them, so I can delete them. I'll take these ones though and go Control C. And then zoom out a little bit more and go up to 20 seconds. And go Control V. So now when I press play, is my animation. So it's not too fast. I am going to, before we go, you can see the middle of the animation is faster than the bottom. It sort of slows down as it gets to the bottom. So let's have a quick look at its curve. And I'm not sure if I can I want to set that to be flat. Okay, so we're gonna take our Bezier curve here and try and make it more linear. And do the same over here. And okay. And is there a linear left tangent linear? Right tangent linear, that's what we're looking for. So this should give us a smoother animation in the sense that there won't be as much acceleration. It'll go at linear speed to this keyframe and then hopefully at a linear speed back to the next one. So this make for a more predictable and interesting animation. Okay, so that's done. Okay, so what we're going to look at now is going to look at how we would trigger that animation. So before I do that, I'm just going to go to the animation controller for this. And let's go back to, yeah, so it's at its starting position there. So so go back to my moving platform. And let's go back to animation here. So we have our animations, we have our lift move. So I'm going to go create new clip, and I'm going to call this lift still. And all I'm going to do here is create add a property, which is a transform and on position. And I've got a single frame here that I'm going to press play on, and so it's not moving anywhere. So it's playing an animation, but the animation is of the object being still. Okay, so now when we go to the animator, we're going to say that this is our default layer, and we're going to make a transition to here, and it's going to make the lift go. And we're going to use a Boolean operation for that, and we're going to call it go. Okay, so and over here we're going to say when go is true, and we'll turn off exit time. So when go is true, this animation here, lift move, is going to play. Okay, and I can close this now. So now all I need is a script and some sort of triggering device. So so let's do that. So I'm going to go back in here, and I'm going to create, so I'm going to take this non-player character here and just move it off out of the way. We'll put him over there. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new sprite. So 2D object and a sprite. Where are we? Where is my sprite? Not in there. There it is. So here is my sprite. And again, it has order and layer issues, so we'll give it an order and layer of 2. And it has no sprite, so we'll click on this and we'll give it something. just so we can see it for a second or two, even though that's not important for now. I'm going to change the scale of it, so I'm going to make it nice and big so that it covers the entire corridor. Okay, and I'm going to give it a physics collider, box collider. So now what am I trying to do here? So what I want to do is I want to turn off the sprite renderer. So this has got collision, so if I press play now, I basically have an invisible wall. So I'll walk forward, dum-de-dum, and then I've hit an invisible wall and I can't go any further. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to remove the physics from this, and I'm going to put in is trigger. And I'm going to rename this. I'm going to call it lift trigger, because that's what it is. It's going to trigger the animation on this lift. So how am I going to do that? What script will I use to do that? Well, here is a script called lift. It's actually called L1 lift for level 1. So I'm going to open this up in MonoDevelop. Now let's bring that across here. So this is my let's delete that, my debugging. So I've declared that there is a game object, which is going to be the lift, and I'm going to send a message to that lift. So down here you can say, or you can see what we're doing here. So we're saying on trigger enter 2D. So when I enter the collider, so when my character enters this collider, if the other object, so this script here is going to go on the collision object, it's going to go on that box trigger, so this lift trigger here. So if the player, or if the object that collides with me is tagged player, then send a message to this object saying go. So let's do that. So I'll move this out of the way. So I'm going to put this script here onto my lift trigger. So here it is here. So it's got, and it's looking now for my moving platform, which is this guy here. He's going to go in here. So it's going to send a message to this on collision with an object called player. So let's go see if my player, yep, has the tag player. And then finally I need another script, and it's a very simple script, and it's called L1 lift go. So let's open that up in MonoDevelop and have a look at it. Okay, so this is it here. So it's got an animator because it needs to know which animator up here to access, and then it says you know, when you've got that animator, turn on the boolean go, set it to be true, and then if you remember from what we've set up here, if go is true, then it will play the animation. So so this here is sending the message to the platform, and then the platform needs this script here, and it says what is my animator? Well, it's the moving platform animator that we want to access. So now let's see if that works. So what we should get here is two things. So we should get, actually let me press stop here, let me turn off maximize on play. So I'm going to highlight this before I hit play so you can see when I collide with it, and then when I collide with it, I should send a message to the lift to start moving, and there we go. So I should be able to jump here and go onto my lift. Okay. So that's all I want to cover in this little very short tutorial here. So what we've looked at is using a sprite with a box collider to not have physics but to still register collision. So it's is trigger, and then to use a script that's using the on trigger enter command as opposed to on collision enter. So when we trigger something to send a message, and we haven't done that before, and we've sent a message to our elevator, to our platform, saying start the animation. Okay, so that's about all we'll cover in this one, and over the next couple of tutorials we'll start building on this and running up to sort of exporting for WebGL. Alright, so that's enough for now.